guess your thoughts on the way you guys performed so far?
Looking good. I mean, I don't know. You know, they got some have been at the combine, so they look like some of the guys have been training hard. Some have been training here. Some have been here for several weeks. I think the staff did a great job of creating a good little environment, setup. Had a lot of representation from teams. And like I say, right now, Nate's finished up. They're doing some individual drill work, so they all look like they ran well. I had some good test numbers, so these kids have trained hard for us 3-4 years. They look like they've continued, and they look pretty good today. So we're interested what those guys think.
Do you get much feedback from the coaches, the NFL coaches, in terms of what they're looking for, what they think of your guys?
No, my advice to these guys is they're actually watching them more right now. Jordan Howard doing it with coaches. They're watching how he talks as much as did he run or catch well, because they've seen a bunch of tape. They know if he's a good player or not a good player. Sometimes you're getting a personality trait, because when you watch film and watch a game, it stops and starts and stops and starts and stops and starts, and you don't get a lot of personality of what's going on. So some of today's deal is just watching them interact with people, and how do they respond if they drop a pass or if they do a drill wrong, and how competitive are they and how tough are they. And even though you're not hitting, I think you're getting some statistical number of judgments, but you're also getting a little bit of judgment. Is this a coachable kid? And a kid you want in your environment. So I think a lot of these coaches and scouts get as much out of what's happening between the drills and how the kids act as much as what the drill or the time or the height or weight truly is.
When you look at Jordan Howard, a guy that helped propel your program, to a successful season this year, I guess what do you see that will translate well into the NFL?
Well, I think all of those guys, not all, I think the majority of those guys have a skill set in potential opportunity to be in camps and potentially make it. Now, the two reasons, maybe there's several, but the two main reasons to me why some guys don't make it in the NFL is, one, you got to be good enough. And the second thing is you got to be mature enough. And some of these guys, to me, are still young enough. There's some maturing that they need to do to play on the professional level, from the day-to-day preparation, taking care of your body, work habits, mental habits, getting rest, getting recovery, and doing that year-round, because your athletic career is such a short window. You've got to maximize that out. And you got a guy like Jordan, Darius Latham, they got 5 semesters of college. They're barely halfway through the experience. So even now, the nice thing is I think physically they're all going to be good enough, and I think mentally they're all intelligent enough to be good enough. But Nate Sudfeld, still, Jason Spriggs is 21. They're young players, and they all got to keep maturing. And so I think Jordan brings a great skill set, a lot of talent, but he's got to continue to physically and mentally mature. But so does Jason, so does Nate, so does every one of those guys. And that, to me, is a part of the process of going from the college to pro. I had a high school coach here yesterday said, man, I wish every college recruit could come watch how hard you guys practice. I think these college guys, as hard as we train them now, the jump from college to pro and how hard to take care of your body. And that, to me, will be a key to all these guys. I think many of them are good enough and are going to have the opportunity, but outside of health and talent, their maturity and consistency level is going to lead to longevity or lack thereof.
Kevin, how impressive was Nate's comeback from his shoulder surgery?
Pretty good. One, fortunate, was a non-thrower, so he was able to do a lot last winter. Now, I do think, though, when I do talk to scouts, let's look at Nate. He had basically almost a year of non-lifting, and he physically needs to continue to mature upper body, and not just to throw it better, but to be able to have the command presence and stand in the pocket and take hits and be a consistent guy. So he came back well, but I still think he's probably 1.5, 2 years away physically of just getting strength in his muscles caught up with this bone deal. Credit to our doctors, credit to our medical staff. He had a great off season. He had a really strong year, but I still think, even though he's back and had a good year, he's got to keep maturing, and he knows that. And I think the scouts and coaches know. I think everyone's encouraged, and he's definitely going to be able to hold up and play. But I think to play well, you look at a lot of these guys, they need a couple. Look at Kirk Cousins, who was a great college player. Took a couple years, but now the way he's seasoned, he's playing high-end pro football. And I think guys like Jordan and guys like Nate, if they're fortunate, they'll get an opportunity, and they'll get a good opportunity, but hopefully they can season and grow for a year or two to be more complete at that level.
What about Nate's footwork? He had cited that at the combine as something that he thought that it really needed to improve in order to translate to the professional level. What needs to change there?
Well, I think it's sometimes, we're just talking to one of the coaches over there about, I'm like, why is he doing all these throws under center? Because you want to show you can go under center. And everybody makes a big deal because of the pro games. But if you actually put on the tape and watch Peyton Manning, he's actually standing in the gun, shows Drew Brees. But it's like, because the West Coast, it's the Bill Walsh disciple side of football, you have to go under center and take 3-step and 5-step drops. And because we do so little of that, I think he just felt he needed to show, because most coaches are, we had Coach Moore here the other day, the old Colts go worked him out. And I said, listen, that's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and coached about how many times is Peyton in the gun, and Palmer's in the gun. So sometimes it's just the style, the college influence and gun influence. Sean Payton years ago told me I played Drew Brees in the gun because he was so great in high school, and with his height, that's better for him. He does put Drew under center with so much passings in the gun. So I think just Nate felt we're such a gun team, he needed to show people he could take a snap, take a drop, and get in rhythm. And that's time on task, the thing he's done the least, both high school and here. So I think he just wanted to show the doubters he could take a true step.
Any specific advice or anything you've talked to Darius about? Kind of ask some questions, just rolling around. Any advice you've given him?
No, well, I mean, all of them. The thing we talked about on maturity. I mean, you're at a point where, again, the physical maturity side, but the mental maturity side. Not smart enough to learn plays, but smart enough to handle the daily lifestyle of being a professional. And there's enough competition, enough players that you figure that out quickly or you don't stay. So my advice to all those guys was you need the next, I encourage all those guys to train here. Jason Spriggs is actually the one guy that truly stayed here and went to school and tried to still, and he's missed some stuff. It's been hard to do well in school because he's trying to do some things with the combine and the Senior Bowl and training, but we just encourage all those guys that they need a short window to not look good for the combine, but to look good when they get the opportunity, because typically the higher you get drafted, the more guaranteed, the more likely they keep you. And if you're inconsistent, don't have a lot of guarantee, you don't stay long, even if you're good. And so that's where that physical and mental maturity. So all I talked about the guys was the reality of it's coming fast, and it's called growing up. And it doesn't mean you don't have fun, it's just called, it's time to go to work and take care of your body. Anything else?
Kevin, I'm doing a story on Nate. I need to